Let's start by the basics. Normally what you do on the first place when you want to select a lubricant is to look after the OEM recommendations. That's normally the way you start. Sometimes there's a pitfall in that because the OEM recommendations tend to be, well, generic. Think about an electrical motor, same machine, but one of them is put 4,000 meters above the sea level on a mining facility, and another one is just by the sea, in a very warm and sunny place. Although the machine is the same, the lubricant that is required is different because the conditions are different, the temperatures are different, the humidity is different. So that will influence your selection of lubricant. That's why it's important to go into those details. Another example is classically the food and beverage industry. So there are specific certifications that you have to pass in order to be approved for usage in a food and beverage factory. Certifications like the ISO 21469 or the NSF H1, religious certifications, halal, kosher, all these kind of things. The amount of lubricant, food-grade lubricant that is allowed to go into the final goods is about 10 parts per million. So it's about 10 milligrams for a kilo of cookies, something like that. So it's really, really tiny. Although the lubricant is specifically designed to be non-toxic and not harmful for human consumption. Now, imagine that you don't use a food-grade lubricant for that application. You're putting yourself into trouble. And unfortunately, that's something that still is going on in the market. Now, another point that is important to understand is what is the role of the temperature in the grease selection, because sometimes you speed up a machine. You are running at certain conditions, but you need to produce more, and then you speed up a little bit, or for whatever reason, the temperature or the speed are going up. Well, that will affect the life of your lubricant. That means that you will need to shorten the relubrication interval. It will be shortened by default. So you will need to go more often to that point to apply lubricant or reset your relubrication system. But the concept that I want to bring is that you need to keep in mind the real application conditions and when and if do they change to reassess the lubricants that you are using. Now, something that we do particularly to assess this is basically studying the performance of our lubricants. So we test them not only in lab tests, but also in test rigs. So we really take bearings and run them to see how far can they go. So we can take conscious decisions on what are the best lubricants for a given application and what should be the relubrication intervals. And also something that is very important nowadays is how the grease will work in a lubrication system. Because as the future is approaching, well, it's more likely that we will use more and more automated systems to provide the lubricant to a given point. But it's not granted that every single grease will work well in a lubrication system. So we are spending a lot of resources and time and efforts to really understand what makes a grease working well in a lubrication system